Welcome to Free Christian Church of God's Video Outreach Ministry, bringing the gospel message of Jesus Christ into your home each and every Sunday morning. If you would like more information about the video ministry or other ministries that we have to offer, stay tuned immediately following this program. And now, open your Bibles and follow along as we bring you today's message.
If you have your Bible again tonight, turn to Ephesians chapter 4. We have two more installments, if you will, of this tonight and next Wednesday night before we finish up this series on the family. When it's all said and done, I assume there will be video of it as well as audio. If you would like copies of that, all you need to do is let Pastor Mike know, and he can get those things. Don't call him this week. He's at Disney World. Good luck calling him this week. Mike always throws his phone in the glove compartment of the car when he's on vacation, so good luck getting a hold of him. But they're getting a vacation. I looked up the weather. It was 80-some degrees and sunny every day. I hated him. No, I think they're probably having a really, really good time. Wish I were they. Wish we were there. So, but he'll be back, and let him know when it's all said and done if you'd like copies of this. Ephesians chapter 4, tonight we're going to take verses 25 to 32. We're going to talk about communication within the family. Communication within the family. Verse 25, starting there, it says, "Therefore each of you must put off falsehood and speak truthfully to your neighbor, for we are all members of one body. In your anger, do not sin. Do not let the sun go down while you're still angry, and do not give the devil a foothold. Anyone who has been stealing must steal no longer, but must work, doing something useful with their own hands, that they may have something to share with those in need. Do not let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouths, but only what is helpful for building others up according to their needs, that it may benefit those who listen. And do not grieve the Holy Spirit of God, with whom you were sealed for the day of redemption. Get rid of all bitterness, rage, and anger, brawling and slander, along with every form of malice. Be kind and compassionate to one another, forgiving each other, just as in Christ God forgave you. Forgive others, just like Christ and God has forgiven you." The language of our world has changed drastically in the last 30 years or so. We have a channel on our TV that's called Retro TV. Do you get that? And it shows some of the old shows. I mean, I'm talking the black and white shows. The back in the days when stuff didn't used to be in color. We had pictures when I was a kid, and Jimmy was little, and he was looking at those pictures, and he said, "Turn to me, Dad." He said, "Dad, when did everything turn in color?" I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "When did everything turn in color?" He just assumed since all the pictures was in black and white, so was everything else. But if you look at those programs, and you see the language on those programs, and compare that to what is primetime TV now, there's a big difference, isn't there? Cuss words and substitute cuss words flow from the mouths of even professing Christians. You know what I mean by substitute cuss words? That's where you take the original cuss word and you replace it with a similar sounding word so that it will sound more acceptable and you'll be able to use it. Words like freaking. We all know what that stands for. Or abbreviations like OMG. We don't sound so Christ-like anymore. We claim to be a servant of God, but our language betrays us. When Peter denied Christ, he cursed, and they knew by his language that he wasn't with Jesus. The name of God is taken in vain millions of times every day. Adults to little children preface many of their expressions with, "Oh my God." I was watching an episode of a home makeover show a while back. One of those where they go in and everybody in the neighborhood's kind of tired of seeing this old rundown shack, and so they want to get in there and tear it down and make it into a nice place. And I was watching that, and I typically kind of watch the beginning and skip the middle and then go back to the end. I really don't care how they do it. I just want to see what it looks like when it's all done. And I was watching at the end of it when they brought the family back into the home. And when they brought the family into the home, every member of the family, even including the little children, prefaced every expression with, "Oh my God." They opened the door of the house, it was, "Oh my God." Every time they'd show them a new room, it was, "Oh my God." I couldn't handle it no more, and I had to change the channel. You know, you're watching a show that's supposed to be kind of wholesome entertainment, and yet they're taking God's name in vain over and over and over again, and finally I couldn't watch it anymore. They were happy about their new home, but every time they opened their mouth, they trashed God's holy name. Exodus 20, verse 7 says, "You shall not misuse the name of the Lord your God. For the Lord will not hold anyone guiltless who misuses his name." It's one of the 10 commandments, yet even Christians break that commandment every day, not understanding that God will hold them accountable for every time they have misused his sacred name. We have a real freedom of speech in this country, don't we? Nobody seems to hold anything back anymore. Everybody feels it's their right to express themselves, so they express their feelings to anyone, at any time, anywhere. It can be at a ball game, it can be at a board meeting, it can be at a department store, or to somebody on the street that they don't even know. There are no boundaries for our language anymore. Our words are so harsh and so destructive, and they're used so freely without any regard for the damage that they'll do, that our words have created a negative atmosphere around us. A very dark, negative, oppressive spirit hangs over us because it is suppressing more important things like love and joy and peace. I hate texting, and I hate Facebook for the one very reason is people will type things that they will not say. They will type things to somebody that they wouldn't have the guts to say or wouldn't have the nerve to say face to face. And the thing is, when you type things, it doesn't come with a facial expression. It doesn't come with any voice inflections. It doesn't come with emotion. So the person getting it on the other end has to interpret how it was, how you felt when you were saying that. And we get away with so much. You know, it used to be that you didn't want to put stuff in writing because you didn't want it held against you. And we were more free to put it in writing than we are to say it verbally. Well, sadly, this freedom of speech has infiltrated our homes. So many families today don't know how to communicate properly. They don't know how to talk to each other. They speak to each other, or they speak at each other. They scream and they yell and they cuss and they threaten and they bully and they abuse and they cry and they wail and they whine. They communicate, but they communicate all the wrong things. And you know the sad thing about this is, deep down on the inside, these very same people might just care about each other. They might actually love each other. It's just hard to tell. Deep down in their heart, they might not hate each other as much as they sound like they do at first. But if this pattern continues, it will become destructive to the entire family. If you speak English in your home, your children will have no problem learning the English language. If you speak English poorly in your home, your children will learn to speak English poorly. I went to college with a guy that his mom and dad was missionaries in France. He just happened to grow up there as a kid. Now, when you're getting a Bachelor of Arts degree, you have to have a second language. I took Greek and Hebrew, stuff like that. This guy tested out of French. I didn't hardly think that was right. I mean, he could speak English, he could speak French because he grew up around it. It wasn't a problem for him to learn it. You know, if you speak that Spanish in your home, your kids are going to be able to speak Spanish. The deterioration of the language in a home brings about a deterioration in communication in that home. And the deterioration in communication brings about the deterioration of the family itself, because the children in the home will learn the language that is spoken by the adults in that home. What I'm telling you is this. It is a learned behavior. It's a learned behavior. For all of the screaming and all of the yelling and all of the cussing and all of the feuding that we now see in the children was the way they observed mom and dad doing it. It was the way grandma and grandpa did it. And so the children, being good mimics of the adults around them, at a very early age begin to imitate the behavior of the adults until one day they possess that behavior and that language as their own. So what we have here is the proverbial failure to communicate.
People generally don't identify the problem. They identify the symptoms of the problem. They say we don't get along. But what they really mean is we can't communicate. Or an adult couple will come into my office and say we can't be intimate with each other. But what they mean is we don't know how to communicate with each other. Conflict in a family is inevitable. You know, I know some people think that when they get saved, that all of a sudden their home life should just be the Cosby Show, you know? You wake up in the morning, the angels are singing, the sun's shining no matter what it's doing outside. The children are happy. Everybody just gets along. I'm telling you now, if you think that's the way it is after you get saved, you're going to be in for a rude awakening. You're going to be in for... Now, it may improve. Hopefully, it does improve. But conflict in a family is inevitable. You can take the greatest, most mature, most Christ-like Christian people in the world and put them in the same house day and night, day after day and after day, and it will only be a matter of time before there is conflict. Don't be disappointed because there's conflict in your home. Conflict is like dynamite. It's volatile. It's explosive, but it can be used for good or it can be used for bad. Dynamite can be used to open up passageways through mountains so they can build roads, or it can be used to blow things up. It can be used to destroy what exists, or it can be used to open new paths of opportunity. What we have to do is to learn how to deal with the conflict. As long as everybody in your house has their own brain, they will also have their own opinion. As long as everybody in the house has the ability to think, they will inevitably sometimes think differently. There will be conflict. There will be conflict over money. I tell nearly every newlywed couple that I marry that there will come a day when they will have their first marital argument, and that will be about money. And it will most likely be because they don't have enough of it. Isn't that true? That's usually the first place of conflict. There will be conflict. When children are born into the home, there will be conflict over how to raise those children. You're going to find that person that you've been married to for a few years, when a child comes into your home, is going to have different ideas than you do about how to raise those kids. There will be conflict over smaller issues as well. There will be conflict over what to watch on TV. It's Monday night. You want to watch football. But your husband wants to watch something else. Say you don't. There'll be conflict over what to have for dinner or what to do on the weekend. As long as there are people in the home who do not share a brain, there will be conflict. The problem with some people is they just don't know how to deal with the conflict. The husband will set the thermostat to 70. His wife then will get up and go over and reset it to 72. And therein will result an argument that ends with the phrase, well, why don't we just get a divorce? The temperature on the thermostat is not grounds for a divorce. Ask any judge. It is not grounds for a divorce. And yet it degenerates, our language degenerates into something that is off subject, that is way more important than the subject that was at hand. We really need to learn how to have differences of opinion and even how to argue objectively so that the subject at hand remains the subject at hand. But that's an entirely different lesson series. How to have a good fight. There's 6 rules that we need to learn in order to communicate. Rule number 1, we must tell the truth. Do you ever notice how much people lie now? You watch sitcoms on TV. They're lying all the time. We like watching Raymond because we gave them most of the episodes. You know, we used to sit at home thinking, they must have a camera around here somewhere, because a lot of what, you know, I mean, it was eerily familiar because, you know, here we were. I have a brother, Robert. My mom and dad lived across the street. I can't tell you how creepy it was at times. They lie all the time. Raymond lies to his wife lies to him, they lie to his parents lie to them. You know, it seems it's just everywhere. He says in verse 25, therefore each of you must put off falsehood and speak truthfully to your neighbor, for we are all members of one body. Now, don't get that, well, that means just my neighbors. No, that means people in your house too. Okay? The first thing you have to do is stop lying. Lying is a lousy habit. People start it when they're young and they take it right into adulthood with them. And some people have done it for so many years that they think absolutely nothing about telling a lie. It's just how they communicate. It's how they get by. You don't have to think. You don't have to come up with something witty or wise. You just tell a lie. And then one lie leads to another lie, which leads to another lie. Before you know it, nobody can believe anything you have to say. You have to stop lying. People lie pretty freely anymore. It seems to be real commonplace, even acceptable in our society. Some have even tried to justify lying by qualifying what a lie is. You remember President Clinton? Remember the lying, I did not have sex with that woman. And then he later qualified his statement by saying it depends on what the definition of is. Let me give you the biblical definition of lying. Lying is giving information with the intent to deceive. Giving information with the intent to deceive. That means that you can make all truthful statements. But if your intent is to use those statements to deceive someone, you are a liar. Lying is also one of the 10 Commandments. Isn't it amazing how that our home breaks down and is breaking down on the most fundamental basics of the Scriptures? Paul says if there's going to be any harmony and peace in the home, that truth must be spoken in the home. Truth means that which corresponds with reality, what is really real. Lying was what Satan did to Eve in the garden. Lying is what Adam did to God after the fall. Lying is what Cain did after murdering his brother Abel. Lying is the first sin that God judged in the church when it began, when Ananias and Sapphira lost their lives for doing it. Lying doesn't sit well with God because lying is of the devil. Jesus said in John 8:44, you belong to your father, the devil, and you want to carry out your father's desires. He was a murderer from the beginning, not holding to the truth, for there is no truth in him. When he lies, he speaks his native language, for he is a liar and the father of lies. If we are going to have harmony, then we must create an environment where people tell the truth. If you don't want your kids lying to you when they turn 16, 17 years old, don't be lying in front of them when they're 1 and 2. Because they will learn the language. The Word of God says that we should tell the truth because we are members of one another. We need to be truthful because we're connected. We're connected as family members. He uses the example of the body here. Now think about it. If your body didn't communicate the truth, if your feet didn't tell you that they were freezing, your feet could get frostbite. If your nerve endings didn't tell you that you were hot when you were smothering, the rest of your body would overheat and destroy itself. Our bodies function because our bodies do not lie. Do you know why you get, now they're capable of lying. You know why you get car sick? Because the balance system that's in your ears when you're riding in the back seat of a car tells you you're moving around. But your eyes are looking at the back of the seat in front of you, which says it's not going anywhere. Your eyes are sending one signal to your brain while your ears are sending another one. And because your body's getting lied to and don't know how to respond, you get a headache. As family members of one body, we must communicate to each other the truth. We must communicate to each other when we are hurting and when we're feeling good. We have to communicate to each other when we're angry and when we're upset and when we're pleased and when we're satisfied. If we don't communicate the truth, then we live in a lie and we no longer understand each other. We no longer know how other members of our family feel and what they're dealing with because everybody's lying. Nobody promised that it would always be pleasant to tell the truth, but it is always the best. When your teenager explodes in tears and says, nobody understands me, it's not easy to hear. But it's far better than that teenager holding up inside their emotions that tear them apart and drive them to find solace in alcohol or in drugs or even suicide. It may not be pleasant to hear your spouse say, I don't feel any value in my life anymore. But it's far better than finding them one day with a bullet in their head or an empty bottle of sleeping pills at their side. We have to communicate the truth. But I don't want you to get the wrong impression here. It's not always bad truth that we need to communicate. You see, some people think, I'm going to tell the truth. And it's always a bad truth. There are a lot of good things that we as family members need to communicate to each other. Good truth. We need to communicate to our spouse that we do love them and that they're the best thing that's ever happened to us. We need to communicate to our children that we're proud of them for simply being who they are. We need to communicate truthfully the good things as well as the bad things. Second of all, we must maintain self-control. Verse 26, in your anger, do not sin. Do not let the sun go down while you're still angry, and do not give the devil a foothold. That's a lot of scripture right there. Be angry and sin not. Don't let the sun go down on your wrath, and do not give the devil an opportunity. Anger is an illegitimate emotion. It's not an illegitimate emotion. It's not an illegitimate emotion. It's all right to get angry from time to time. But notice he makes a distinction between being angry and sinning. He does so because being angry is not necessarily a sin. Well, you're mad. Might be a good thing. Anger is the arousal of an internal displeasure because something has displeased us. God gets angry when he sees the wickedness of the world. Jesus got angry when he saw the money changers in his Father's house. So the fact that you and your family members get angry is natural and is not necessarily wrong or not necessarily a sin. Legitimate anger is anger over something that is wrong. But there is also illegitimate anger, which is a sin. Anger becomes sin when it degenerates into a plan to hurt the one who made you angry. It's then no longer an internal emotion, but it's become an external act of retribution. I will get even. Anger becomes sin when you attack the person and not the problem. We get angry, but instead of talking about the problem, we begin to bring up character flaws and things from the past. We begin to fire darts in the direction of the one that we're angry at, or sometimes we even resort to violence. One man said to another, he said, when my wife fights with me, she gets historical. He said, you mean hysterical? He said, no, I mean historical. She brings up everything from the past. There should be boundaries for your anger. The Bible says that the boundaries should be angry and don't sin. Be angry, but not for more than a day. Be angry, but don't give the devil an opportunity to get involved. There's your boundaries. You can be angry, but keep it within those boundaries. As long as you stay within those boundaries, you're all right. You get outside of the boundaries, then your anger becomes sin. Anger is only proper when you're dealing with the issue at hand. The reason we can't deal with our problems many times is because instead of tackling the problem, we want to attack the person. And when we finish beating up the person, we find that we're still living with the problem. So the question you want to ask yourself when you're angry is, do we really want to fix this problem, or are we just looking for an excuse to beat each other up? So here's the scene. An explosion occurs. A war takes place, and there are casualties scattered all around the house. The damage is far worse than the original problem deserves. But the Word of God says, be angry and sin not. There's a difference between anger and exasperation. The Bible says anger unleashed wrongfully is hard to overcome. Proverbs 18:14, the human spirit can endure sickness, but a crushed spirit who can bear? The damage done by misplaced anger is hard to overcome. Someone says, well, I just explode and then it's over. Well, so does a bomb. But when a bomb explodes, it's not over. Look at the damage that it leaves behind. If you're going to keep anger from becoming sin, he says you must time it properly. Don't let the sun go down on your anger. How many times have you heard that verse? Don't let the sun go down on your wrath. One man came to church on Sunday morning, looked ragged and worn. Pastor looked at him. He said, are you feeling okay? You don't look so good. Man said, man, you preached a while back that a husband and wife should never go to bed angry. Pastor said, yes, that's right, I did. He said, well, I want you to know that I've been up for 3 weeks now. He's not saying don't go to bed angry. That's not practical. I mean, let's face it. If the explosion occurs at 9:30 and bedtime is 10, unless you got a really fast-working system, it's hard to not be angry at 10. But what he's saying here is don't go to bed, don't let the sun go down without that issue being addressed. If something happens this evening and the emotions of your anger are fresh at bedtime, if you don't have it settled by bedtime, then agree to a time when you will address the situation and resolve it. It won't be skipped. It won't be ignored, but it's on your family agenda. Now, granted, you may not sleep very well. Okay? Get a good bed. Let me give you some advice. Get a good bed. That's one thing about Lisa and me. We have a very comfortable bed. We stumbled onto it a few years ago, got a great deal on it, and we will not give it up to anybody. I mean, it is a pillow top, pillow bottom mattress. It's like getting in grandma's bed. This thing is so thick. It's stiff, but it's not hard, and it's just perfect. It's just perfect for us. Very comfortable bed. As a matter of fact, I'd recommend all married couples to go out and buy the most comfortable bed that you can find. I don't care what it costs you. Find the most comfortable bed you can find. Lisa and I have disagreements. We occasionally have conflict. Occasionally, it isn't resolved by bedtime. But nobody sleeps on the couch because our bed feels so good. Now, it is a king size. There is room to retreat. But the thing is, you get a comfortable bed, you're going to stay there. You're going to stay there. He says in verse 27, don't give opportunity to the devil. When you go to bed without a plan to address your problem and your anger, you open an opportunity for Satan to enter into your subconscious. Now, you know how this works. While you're lying in bed, the devil's working on your mind. While you're trying to sleep, he's feeding you thoughts and ideas and replaying this movie reel of what you just went through. Only the devil is really good at editing, and he edits that film reel. And then you start doing your own editing of the film reel. You know what I'm talking about. When you dream, he's playing a rerun of the situation, only with this new, never seen before footage. He's building a workshop in your subconscious so that the problem you had the night before has grown by the time you wake up the next morning. Can anybody say amen? You know what I'm talking about? By the time you wake up, you are worn out and madder than when you went to bed because you fought and argued and imagined all kinds of things in the middle of the night. Don't give the devil that opportunity. When you take anger to bed without a strategy for addressing it, you're opening a door for Satan to make a mess out of a much smaller issue. And it is a smaller issue. This thing of being mad day in and day out, week in and week out, month in and month out, it only has to give the devil an opening, and he walks right through it. But this thing of being angry all of the time, I don't know how people do it. People will come into my office for marriage counseling, and they're fighting and they're carrying on, and they do it all of the time, and I'm thinking, man, you really like this much? After a while, I would say, let's do something different. This just isn't fun anymore. If you go on a blind date with anger, you're going to end up married to the devil. Get angry, but don't let anger own you. Okay, number 3. You must not just address the problem, but you must also address solutions. He says in verse 28, anyone who has been stealing must steal no longer, but he must work, doing something useful with their own hands that they may have something to share with those in need. God says stop stealing and start working. I don't like being around negative people. A negative person only sees what's wrong, but they offer no way of making it right. I don't like being around complainers or bad news bearers or cold water bearers. I just don't like being around people like that. I was speaking to the elders a couple of Sundays ago, and we were discussing the building program before church, and I said to them, I don't want to hear any negatives. I don't want to hear, what if something happens? Or what if we can't afford it? I said, I don't want to hear it because this is from the Lord, and it will not fail. I don't want to hear what if. If you don't believe in me, then stay away from me. If you can't encourage me, then don't talk to me. And if you don't have anything good to say, then don't speak, because negative language is discouraging and oppressive. And God says that's not the way we're supposed to communicate. I didn't say I don't like negatives, because sometimes negatives point out to us what's wrong. And we all know that we have things that are wrong and things that we can do better. But don't just point out the wrongs without offering some way to make it right. Men, when you come home and the house is a mess and supper isn't cooked and you can see that your wife is frustrated, don't ask stupid questions like, is there something wrong? Of course there's something wrong, you big idiot. Don't you see the fire shooting out of that woman's eyes? There is something wrong. Don't complain about the mess and bellyache that your meal isn't on the table, but offer a solution. Pick up the living room floor. Say to your wife, why don't you get ready and we'll go out for supper tonight? Or why don't you just sit down and take a load off and I'll go get some supper and bring it home. Or let me do the dishes. Don't just complain about what's wrong, but offer a solution. Let him that steals steal no more, but let him work. Maybe you've been ignoring your wife's feelings and her problems for too long, and you've just been stealing from her time and stealing from her needs, and you need to do some work for a change. Come up with a working solution. Don't just restate the problem. Condemnation without hope always crushes. So you have to have a solution. Number 4, we must build up and not tear down. Verse 29 says, do not let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouths, but only what is helpful for building others up according to their needs, that it may benefit those who listen. Watch what you say. The word unwholesome means rotten. It was used to describe the smell of rotten vegetables or decomposing bodies. It stinks. Have you ever driven past Campbell's Soup when the sprayers are working? I always used to go that way to the hospital. Thank God for the new highway. I may never pass by it that way again. But you know what I'm talking about? Oh, you will never eat soup again if you smell that. It is decaying, rotting vegetables, I assume, that's been water run through and they're spraying it out on the fields when it's a nice, warm summer day. And the odor is just horrible. Have you ever been around somebody who had really bad breath? I mean, really, really, really bad breath. They're kind of hard to talk to, aren't they? They're hard to listen to. They're talking to you and you're going, yeah. You know, you're trying to get out of the way. You can't get close to them to communicate because you can't stand the stink that's coming out of their mouth. Do you speak to your husband or your wife or your children with rotten words? Do you use profanity? Do you use curse words on members of your family? Such a thing is putrid, God says. It stinks. For you to call them unholy and unrighteous names is sickening, and it will drive them from you so that you won't be able to communicate with them when you want to. He said, let no unwholesome words come out of your mouth. None. Leave the trashy words in the trash can. Leave the dead, rotting corpses in the cemetery. Be angry, but don't let rotten words come out of your mouth. Watch what you say. An elderly couple was driving down the road one day. They'd been married for years and years and years. They passed by an old mule that was standing out in the field, standing along by the edge of the road. The husband looked out the window and saw it, and he said to his wife, he looks like one of your relatives. She never batted an eye. She just turned back to him and grinned. She said, yes, by marriage. Communication. Proverbs 15:23 says, a person finds joy in giving an apt reply. And how good is a timely word? We're always to speak appropriate words. James chapter 3 instructs us to learn to use words that bless. Even if someone has done us wrong, if you think that they have it coming, you can say what you have to say in a proper manner. I've learned being a minister that I have to know what's going to come out of my mouth. You know, if you take issue with anything I preach or I teach, I can probably give you 99% of it in script because I know I will be quoted. There are many times when I'm going into a situation that I know is going to be volatile. I have already rehearsed in my mind what I'm going to say so that I say the words that I intend to say and I don't say anything out of line. I'm not telling you that I don't ever say anything out of line. I'm as human as the next guy, but for the most part, I try to watch what I say, when I say it, how I say it. I went to one of Jacob's teachers one time, lit into him about our church in class. And they were outside later on that day after school at a sports activity, and this guy just happened to be there. And I went over to talk to him, knowing already what I was going to say. And I went up to address him, and he lit into me and pointed his finger and turned red in the face and screamed and yelled. And I just let him go. Of course, all of the boys are standing right there watching all of that. And once he had finished exploding, I said, now, all of these boys just heard what you had to say. They saw you screaming and yelling. Matter of fact, I rehearsed what he said back to them so the boys wouldn't forget what he said. And I said, I had said nothing back to you. because I wanted those boys to remember it that way too. Because when I went to talk to his boss, the superintendent, I wanted him to know what happened with his teacher. Watch what you say. No one has the right to verbally abuse somebody else. No one has the right to look down their nose or to speak down to another human being. God hasn't granted you the right to tell somebody off. Even if they're wrong, there's a good way to communicate what you need to say. And the thing is, a lot of us just need some practice with it. We've done it the wrong way for so long. We need to break the old habits and learn how to do it the right way. Implosion is when a building is to be torn down and it's detonated on the inside and then it explodes and collapses on itself. Unwholesome words can implode a relationship. Unwholesome words can destroy a marriage or a friendship that has taken years to build. Unwholesome words can implode a home and a family. Pick and choose words wisely. Rehearse what you'll say before you say it. When you're quoted, and you will be quoted, make certain that it will not reflect badly on you. Think about what you say before you say it. Make sure your brain is in gear before you set your mouth in motion. Verse 30 says, do not grieve the Holy Spirit of God, with whom you were sealed for the day of redemption. Don't make God say, oh, why did he open his big mouth? Or why didn't she think before she said that? Okay, number 5, you must keep private things private. Verse 31 says, get rid of all bitterness, rage, and anger, brawling and slander, along with every form of malice. Bitterness is internal hostility that harbors ill will. Bitterness, when it is permitted to grow, becomes wrath. Wrath is anger expressed, anger unleashed. Bitterness is when you blow up. And then when you blow up in wrath, it degenerates into clamor, Bible word. Clamor means a brawl, a chaotic, out of control, no-holds-barred fight with the intent to do harm. The brawl then degenerates into malice, which Webster defines as a hostile act. Malice then becomes slander, and slander is when you put someone down in the presence of other people. You do it publicly. If you're going to fight, then please fight in private. Please fight in private. How does it make you feel when you see two grown adults fighting in public? You ever, Walmart, grocery store, and you see an adult couple standing there going at it? How does that make you feel? The rest of the world doesn't need to know your problems. They don't want to know your problems because they really don't care. As a matter of fact, the only people who need to know about your problems are the people who can help you fix your problems. I can tell you firsthand that we don't enjoy hearing them either, okay? Even though we're here to help you, and we'll do our absolute best to help you, there are people who come in my office for an appointment who wear me out at the very thought of having to spend an hour with the two of them together. They bicker and they complain and they take shots at each other, and I'm sitting at my desk asking myself, do you enjoy this? I mean, when you said I do at the altar, is this what you're planning on getting? Is this what you want? Is this how you like to live every day? Wouldn't you just like to be happy occasionally? I mean, eventually, wouldn't you just like to stop shooting? It ends up being like the Hatfields and the McCoys. You have a feud that goes on for so long, you forget what the feud's about. You just know you're supposed to be fighting with each other. The worst thing in the world is for a family of God to become a gossip factory. Church people don't call it gossip, though. They call it sharing. Sharing. I just want to share something with you. Now, don't share it with anybody else. I'm just going to share it with you. Home Bible studies sometimes degenerate into complaint sessions and gossip sessions. Shame, 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 church. We should never let that happen. There's once a gossiping church lady who finally fell under conviction for her sin and her continual gossiping, and she wanted to go forward on a Sunday morning and put her tongue on the altar. She said, Pastor, I just want to know, I need your permission. Would I be allowed to do that? And the pastor said, I'm sorry, ma'am, but our altar is only 20 feet long. Keep your dirty laundry in private where it belongs. Do you remember the days before clothes dryers? Now, I vaguely remember this, but I remember my mom's washing machine. It was a round thing with the hole in the top, and then she had this wringer thing. And I remember my mom running clothes through the wringer. That's why when you hear the expression being put through the wringer, that's a pretty bad thing to happen, Well, I remember those days as a kid growing up. And do you remember when everybody in the neighborhood did laundry? And they hung their freshly laundered clothes out on the line, and they waited for the breeze to blow it dry. Now, I'm telling you, it wasn't just towels and wash rags and blue jeans. No, it was underwear and bras and boxer shorts and tighty-whities. There was nothing more embarrassing than for a kid to come home from school with some of his friends and see a pair of size 50 stained boxer shorts and his mom's brassiere hanging on the line. Keep your dirty laundry in private where it belongs. It's not meant to be shared in a Bible study group. It's not meant to be testified about on Sunday nights. It's not meant to be advertised to the rest of the church. When you share such things, you place an image in the minds of those you're talking to that is not a complete picture, but it's only a picture of the bad things. You know, people will do this. They will talk to the guys will talk to the buddies, or women will talk to their friends, and they'll talk about their spouse, and they'll tell how bad they are, and how mean they are, and how awful they are. And so that the only image that those people have is this bad image. He must be a beast. She must be a witch, because if everything you say is true and you don't have any good stuff, wow, it's terrible. That's why those people can't help you. The truth is, most people don't want to hear about your troubles because they have problems of their own. And others only want to hear about it because they're taleberries waiting on their next fix of gossip so they can share it with somebody else. How are we supposed to handle the situation? Matthew 18:15 tells us that we are to go to the person alone. He says, if your brother or sister sins, go and point out their fault just between the two of you. If they listen to you, you've won them over. You've won them over. Number 6, you must clean up the mess. Verse 32 says, be kind and compassionate to one another, forgiving each other, just as in Christ God forgave you. Forgive other people like God has forgiven you. We kind of forget that sometimes. You know, we want God to forgive us of absolutely everything that we've ever done. But we got people that do stuff to us that we want to hang on to. And it's really bad when it gets inside your house. You know what's sad? Some Christians don't care what God's Word says. They don't care what God demands because they're going to do things their way anyway. They really don't care how things pan out in the end. They're not afraid of God's judgment. And it's so sad. They continue to do all these things wrong, knowing what God has said and what God requires them, but they're going to do it their way anyway, and they don't fear God's judgment. God instructs us to be gracious enough to wipe the slate clean. God has forgiven you many times. And it's your responsibility to forgive other people as well. If you're in a fight and you are losing, surrender. Hello. If you're losing and you know you are losing and you are beaten, surrender. Give up. So many people don't want to surrender even though they know that they've lost. They know that they're wrong. They know that the other person they're arguing with knows that they're wrong. They know that they have been outmaneuvered and they've lost the case, but they want to keep fighting. Give it up. You lost. Surrender. Throw yourself on the mercy of the other person. I have some distant cousins who live in Georgia. Now, you remember these days. You know, nowadays we communicate, Facebook and internet and cell phones, all that stuff. Back then, you had relatives that lived, 1,000 miles away that you only knew of because your parents spoke of them, and you saw a picture every now and then. Well, I had some cousins that lived in Georgia. Matter of fact, they still do. These are the cousins that your parents are close to, but you don't hardly know them at all. Well, we were visiting there one time when I was a kid, and my mom and dad said, you can stay in so-and-so's room with them. Talk about a horrible vacation for a kid, All right, we're going to go visit these people We're going to stay a couple of days, and you're going to sleep in that bed with that person you don't know. Great, now I'm not only visiting somebody I don't know, but I'm also sharing a bed with them. One of the first questions my cousin asked me was, are you a Yankee or a rebel? Well, I was only 7 or 8 years old. I had no idea what he was talking about. So I said, I think we're Methodists. He reacted the same way. That's when I began to realize that there's some people in the South who believe that they won the Civil War. They'll say, well, we didn't lose, we just ran out of food and ammunition and men. But we didn't get beat. The war is over. You lost. Surrender so you can move on. Ask for forgiveness because you lost. Join the winning side because you lost. Accept the situation because you lost. And move on. When the one who's been defeated accepts the loss authentically. Okay, I lost. I was wrong. You were right. I lose. I'm sorry. Okay, you've surrendered. When the one who's been defeated accepts the loss authentically, the person who won needs to then grant forgiveness. Forgiving each other as God, through Jesus Christ, forgave you. Now that doesn't mean you go, that's right, I was right, you don't do that. You offer forgiveness. Matthew 6, 14, 15 says, for if you forgive other people when they sin against you, your heavenly Father will also forgive you. That's a great deal. But if you do not forgive others their sins, your Father will not forgive your sins. If you don't forgive other people, then God will not forgive you. That means that there will come a day when you will pay for your own grudge. I sure would hate to miss heaven because of somebody else. Forgiveness means to pardon, to overlook, to treat as though they were not guilty, to love when punishment is due. That's difficult sometimes, especially if you've been hurt. You might have to work at it. You might have to go through the trauma of emotions and make it happen. It may take you a while to get past it, but forgive anyway. Why? Because the next time, you might be the one that loses. You may be the next one on the mat when the referee counts, and you may be the next one who gets knocked out cold. You might be the one needing forgiveness, so be sure that you offer it when somebody else needs it. And now that you've forgiven them, he says, be kind to them. Start over again. Some of you still may be remembering something that your mate did a year ago, and you won't let them forget it. You say that you've forgiven them, but you still hold it over their head. You carry a grudge. You haven't forgiven them. As long as it's still there, you haven't forgiven. There's a chip on your shoulder, and the other person knows it. You can't have a godly relationship like that. But you must forgive and treat them as though it never, ever happened. You must clean up the mess and move on. If every day is another day to pay them back, then you won't ever get over the pain of what happened because you won't have God's help for you to do it. Clean up the mess. There might have been a murder in your house, but it's your job to wash away the blood, spackle shut the bullet holes in the walls, mop up the outline of the body on the floor, replace the carpet, repaint, redecorate, and spray the whole place with Febreze so that nobody knows what happened there in the past. Some of you tonight have an invisible wall in your house. It's a wall that others don't necessarily see, but it's a wall that no one crosses. It's a painful reminder of your situation. It divides your family. It divides your marriage. I'm here to tell you tonight, the war is over. The war is over. Both husband and wife need to lay down their arms and gather around the peace table. Both of you need to trade in your machine guns and your hand grenades for picks and shovels and sledgehammers and start knocking that invisible wall down. When the war is over, what do you have? Peace. When the war is over, you have peace. You see, a lot of people can't get to peace because they want to continually feed the war. But when both sides finally come to the table, lay down their weapons, there's no more fighting, there's no more war. And you have the peace that you've always wanted. You say, but we don't love each other anymore. We don't love each other. You know what the Bible says the definition of love is? Love believes all things, hopes all things, and endures all things. Real love. Real love. Believes all things. You're going to believe in that person no matter what you've gone through. You're going to hope for the best in that person no matter what you've had to deal with. And you're going to endure whatever you confront. Whatever you have to face, you're going to endure it and you're going to stay there for richer, for poorer, in sickness and health, for better, for worse, until death we part. But we don't love each other. We sleep in separate bedrooms. Okay, then, love your neighbor. The Bible says to, love your neighbor. Love the neighbor that's sleeping in the next room. But we don't like each other. Then love your enemies. Love those that hate you and abuse you and despitefully use you. God has an answer for every excuse you've got. Make some bold moves. Instead of the embarrassing moves that you made in the past, put on your good clothes, take your Bible under your arm, and start attending church regularly with each other. Oh, but what will people think? No more than they thought when you were screaming and yelling at each other in public. Start treating each other kindly. Speak about your mate in loving words. It may blow the minds of your friends. Oh, but your friends might think you're crazy. No crazier than they thought you were when you were cussing and complaining about him. God can take a relationship that's been battered and broken for years and fix it if you only apply these rules of communication. There isn't a problem that can't be fixed by God. I've been in the ministry for over 30 years, and I've seen lots of problems. And I've seen some bad problems, some really bad problems. I've seen problems that I didn't think I could get over. And I've seen God give people victory. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter what it is. Any problem can be fixed. I've seen couples that have gone through a bitter divorce start dating each other and remarry. God can fix anything, no matter what it is. But we have to learn to communicate. One of the obstacles we have sometimes is when we get kids. Those of you your kids are grown now, you know, remember when how you and your spouse was really close, and then you started having children, and then you just there was this space because there was kids here. Well, you didn't talk to each other because you were talking to the kids and talking through the kids, and before you know, then the kids all grew up, and then the kids left the home, and now it's just the two of you again. And you have no idea how to talk to each other because you haven't talked to each other for 25 years. You've not been able to communicate for 25 years. You've always had the kids between you. You've kept the kids between you. And now you have to re-communicate. I know people who've been married for 40 years who get divorced because when the kids move out, they just got each other and they have no idea what to do. They need to start all over again and learn how to communicate. One of the first assignments I give anybody that's going through problems in a marriage is go on a date. Go on a date. That sounds stupid, doesn't it? But we don't do that anymore. We don't pursue each other anymore. We don't take time anymore. Some friends of ours at Christmas time a year ago gave Lisa and I one night stay at Bellamere Suites in Perrysburg. I don't know if you know, it's a very nice place for couples only. We went this week. We got it for Christmas. I told Lisa, we got to go before this thing expires. And we finally created time. Now, if you know anything about our house is pretty busy all the time. We get kids and little kids and big kids and all kinds of things going on. Most nights of the week, it's me, Ariana, and Lisa in our bed. That's kind of the arrangement. That's just the way it is because Nana won't put her upstairs by herself because she's too little. And then Shana comes over and it's me, nobody, and Nana's upstairs with the two girls because she don't want to leave them out there by themselves. And so you're on their schedule. You're on their schedule. Well, yesterday we left at about noon or so, and we got up there and we went to the outlet stores and all that kind of stuff. Went out to eat and come back, and it was just us. And I said, we are a sad couple, aren't we here? It's just us. And we talked, and we had, I got to tell you, there's no windows in these rooms. We slept so good. It was so nice. Nobody telling you to get up, and it was so wonderful. And I told her, I said, we were coming home today, I said, we need to do this again sometime. It was kind of like rediscovering each other. Now, don't tell my wife I told you this. Embarrass her to death. But it was good. It was good. And you need to do that. You need to re-pursue each other. One of the sweetest things I think to see is to see an older couple that you know has been married a really, really long time going through the mall holding hands. Isn't that cool? That after 50, 60, 70 years, my mom and dad were married 70 years. That's an astronomical number, isn't it? They were married for 70 years. My dad got extremely ill the last month of his life, and he had to go into a nursing home because of everything that was happening to him. And he and my mom just were always together, always together. And my mom said, she told us kids, she said, I am moving in with your dad. Now, my mom's health was decent at the time. I'm moving in with your dad. And I remember wheeling my mom in a wheelchair into my dad's room. And my dad, who's always been this strong, tough guy, tears dripped off of his face. And he said, I never thought I'd see you again. And my mom went over and grabbed my dad's hand, and she said, I am never leaving you. And he would sleep in his bed, holding her hand. We moved their beds together so that they could hold hands as they slept. That's the way God intends it to be. And that's what everybody can get if we just apply the principles that God has spelled out. We can have a great marriage and a good home and a good family. Father, I thank you tonight for just, God, the treasures that are right in front of us that we refuse to see. You keep whispering these things to us, but the world keeps screaming other stuff. And that other stuff sometimes gets so stuck in our ears and in our mind that we start believing all the lies that's out there. But God, the truth is found in your word. And God, you tell us how it can work. You give us all of the secrets, and they're not secrets at all. You give us everything we need to have the home, the family that anybody would want. God, all we have to do is humble ourselves and apply them. Father, I pray that we'd be wise enough to do just that. In Jesus' name.
Thank you for watching today's message from Free Christian Church of God in Continental, Ohio. To find out more information about Free Christian Church of God, or to receive a copy of Reverend James Fry's weekly television program, Your Life, call the church office at area code 419-596-3103 or visit our website at freecog.org and download your copy today.